we are recording. Hey everybody, it's Adam Realman here, and this is episode 5 of Your Personal Record. Today, I've got a friend of mine, and I'm going to tell you a little about how we met, but his name is Dave Ennis right over here, and he's zooming in from St. Paul, Minnesota. Now, Dave and I have been friends for maybe it's about a year and a half already. We met on a Vinyl Records Facebook group, Brendan Spodek, his Vinyl Records Facebook group. He was episode 1. That was Brandon Spodek. And we had bonded over Alan Vega and Suicide. And when I put on that Coney Island Record Fair that I keep talking about, the one and only Coney Island Record Fair, I had Larry Ratso Sloman, come on down, and he was signing his books and signing his album. And Dave messaged me and said, hey, can you, get Ratso to sign a record for me? I'll send you the money. And I said, yeah, absolutely. And he PayPal'd the money. I had Ratso autograph the record. I sent it out. And Dave messaged me and said, wow, there actually are honest people in this world. So, because we didn't know one. I mean, we had a few correspondences, but only on comments and only, never a private message. Well, it's now a year and a half later. We wind up talking on the phone quite often. We shop for one another. He's in Minnesota. I'm in New York. When I hit New York shops, Jersey shops, I'm looking for stuff for him. He's always looking for stuff for me. So let's welcome to Your Personal Record, Dave Ennis. Dave, how you doing?
Good, Adam. How are you today?
All right. I'm a little tired, but you probably couldn't tell from that hyper introduction, right?
No, you look good.
Oh, thanks. You know what it is? It's the ring light that kills the bags under the eyes. Yeah. So it works. If you set it really, really bright, you no longer have facial features. So that works for me also. So
right,
you don't see any of the wrinkles. And I mean, this beard is actually probably dark black, but because of that light, it just reads as white.
No, it's white.
That's what I'm going for.
I've waited my whole life to be this age, so
you can tell a white beard when you see it.
Yeah.
Right. Even if it's not in the mirror.
Right.
All right. All right. So Dave, let's say, again, we've talked quite a bit over the last, bunch of months, but you're an interesting character. I mean, your taste in music is pretty focused to, it's wide, but it's not. And I want to know about your focus on your collection.
Oh God, Bob Stinson from the Placements used to say if it was ugly, he'd wear it. And I kind of go to the same with the records. If it's ugly, I'll listen to it. I'm really all over the board, from modern classical to jazz to some hip hop, some rock, a lot of noise, singer-songwriter, but it's nothing you really ever hear on the radio. And that's not by design. It's just years of being bludgeoned by bad Midwest radio has turned me off of most popular artists.
That's interesting. And we bonded over Suicide, over Alan Vega, Martin Rev, and some no wave stuff, which no wave to me, I'm fairly new with. I've got that no wave comp, the reissue of the, classic no wave comp up there. But that, if I'm not mistaken, that seems to be kind of your expertise, sort of the no wave and the weird industrial and weird new wave.
Yeah, no wave's a narrow band, so it's a pretty focused group to begin with. There's a lot of offshoots. It's all no wave adjacent. Everything from avant-garde jazz to free jazz to modern classical, that all kind of meshes in. If you look at what No New York had, it had 4 bands on it, and they all sound different from each other. And that's what kind of appealed me, but there's kind of an ethos of, screw musicianship, we want to play, which really appealed to me. And I kind of got into it, maybe early 80s. I found the second Suicide album and went, oh, okay. Because, living in Minneapolis and St. Paul, that we had the MX80 festival here at the Walker Arts Center, which was fantastic. Unfortunately, I was too dumb to really figure it out by then. So I missed James Chance, Suicide. Devo played as Dove, that festival, the Band of Love. And I just missed it. I was in high school and just never got to it. So after that, I just kind of searching, you know how the rabbit holes work. You find this artist and then you go, oh, well, they sound like this, and you go on and on and on. And later you end up with all this.
Right. And that's certainly when you're looking for something on YouTube, when you get that column on the side that's basically, yeah, you like this, you need to check this out. I mean, I'm sure,
Right.
from what I understand, Spotify does the same thing. I don't use Spotify at all. But if I'm looking for something on YouTube, it'll come up with a list of a zillion things that you should listen to or should check out. And that's how all this works. You pick one thing up, and there's just so many different, and now the collection is just growing in leaps and bounds because you just need everything.
Well, I keep confusing want to need. So I guess I do need everything. And, and it's people like you that enable me, and we've talked about this before, saying, God, do I really need this? And you go, yes, you do. And you're like, you're right, I really do. But I mean, I've been buying records since I was 10. I mean, I worked in a record store when I was in 6th grade because I was hanging around, and he just started having me do stuff to keep me out of his hair. And I don't think I ever took home a nickel of a paycheck there. And, so that would have been 74, 75. And, and I've never sold anything. So I've got everything that I pretty much ever bought.
Yeah. Now in 74, is that like your first record? You remember what it was?
The first record I bought was a single for my mother. It was a 45 of the Platters, My Prayer, because she always told me how much she loved that song and she never had it. Well, I was a good little kid at the time, so I did that. The first album I remembered buying was Harry Nilsson's Son of Schmilson.
Ooh.
Mostly because it had bad words on it. And it's a great record, though. I'd Rather Be Dead, You're Breaking My Heart, Take 54, and that got me on a lifelong path of every time I see a Nilsson record I don't have, I buy it.
I'll tell you, the point is it's an odd record, but what a story.
Oh, yeah. And what a voice this guy had. And he didn't want to sing. Yeah. He just wanted to write songs. And George Harrison, the Beatles kind of went, well, you've got to sing with that voice. So, I've got a soft spot in my head for Nilsson.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Nilsson is what incredible songwriter, and friends with John Lennon, of course.
Right.
And it was a great documentary on Nilsson. I'm not sure where it's streaming now, but I think it was called Who's Harry Nilsson?
Who's Harry Nilsson, and why is everybody talking about it?
Yes, that was it. And
it's
great documentary. Yeah. I started the documentary last night on Ivan Julian. It's now on Amazon. You would dig that. That's a good one.
Okay, I'll look for that.
Yeah. Ivan Julian played with Richard Hell and just all over the place. But what a musician! What an incredible guitar player!
Oh yeah, I'll definitely take a look at that. I mean, there's so much. I mean, I always have people going, God, where do you find this stuff? And I said, after a while, it just kind of finds you. When you're open to it, and you get, before the internet, it was music magazines, Option, Wire, Forced Exposure, all that stuff. Man, I just devoured them. And then you write them down, and the next time you're in the record store, you go through it.
Yeah.
And so it just, it took off. And I'm down so many paths right now. I mean, you're talking about no wave adjacent. I mean, all of the sort of disco stuff that was out there, like Christina, like the soul jazz has got some great no wave dance stuff.
Christina. Yeah. Oh, what an album!
That one up.
Nice.
So I mean, that's a whole nother path of almost disco. Kid Creole and the Coconuts. I mean, my focus, I guess, long story short, to come around to it, my focus is I really fell in love with New York City music from 75 to 90.
Yeah, yeah.
So
There was a lot going. I mean, so many different avenues within that. Again, we focus on, let's say, the CBGB stuff, but then just just a slight turn. You got the new wave and the no wave, and a slight turn from there. All that ZE stuff, like you said, Christina, Kid Creole, and it's endless, completely endless.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah. And that's the whole point of it. I mean, I don't know so much buy just to have. I buy it because I like it. And I found the reason I don't get rid of stuff is I've come back to records 10 years, 15 years later and put it on and went, wow, how did I miss this the first time?
yeah,
You know, and
yeah.
twice,
I find it right. Sometimes, you'll pick something up and it takes years, not a few listens, but years to really hit. And
right.
then you're like, I can't believe I let that go for so long, and then you got to play catch up because since that time that you got it, there's been so many releases that you now have to pick them all up.
Exactly.
It's the
And
way
in the
it
same
works.
token, I keep revisiting people that I've never really gotten to. That a lot of people, um, I mean, everything tells me I should like Pink Floyd, you know. Um, and so every 5 or 10 years, I revisit Pink Floyd and try to find something I like. And I can't. I,
You
I
know,
I've
I
tried every Pink Floyd iteration, and it just leaves me cold. But I still keep going in case now is the time for me to listen to it.
I
If
I I
that makes
I
sense.
find the same thing with Pink Floyd. I've tried, and I've had some on the phone. I find I do a lot of listening in the car, and then
Yeah,
if it's something something I want to experiment with, I'll load it on the phone, and then if I really dig it, I'll pick up the a vinyl or a record of it.
right.
And
Well,
Floyd is
that's what I do too.
that's the
I
my
CD stuff
son.
I download.
Yeah, my son put a whole bunch of Floyd on my early Floyd, like Sid Barrett era Floyd.
Yep,
I it doesn't hit me. I'm not
right,
listen, it's good. It just doesn't resonate with me.
right.
And I get bored easily. And I no, it's something that I'm listening to and I'm 2-3 minutes into a track and it's not grabbing me. And inevitably, oh, who is this? Floyd, and I'll just hit forward and go on to whatever the next, shuffle song
Right.
is. But
But
yeah,
then you find stuff that does stick, and then you go and you get a hard physical copy of it.
exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
And there's some stuff like, I had recently picked up that ZE compilation and it terrific. Since then I picked up that Christina record and, had been on the lookout for Michael Dracula. That was a ZE artist from quite a while, probably the 90s, I would
Okay.
think. And, it's only a CD release, but
Okay.
it's sort of like this moody, female vocalist with moody music in the back, and it's really really good. But again, you something that you just haven't heard, and all of a sudden you need to get it because there's the wants and the needs. And
Well, you were a Suicide fan, but you hadn't really gone into much of the other no wave era stuff, right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
then James Chance, and
But it
now
was
that's kind of
right.
a
But
big.
I was a fairly new Suicide fan. I mean, it's really only been a couple of years
Okay.
that I years ago you used to see the Suicide record, the self-titled record, all over it. Now, I mean, $200-300 for a nice clean copy.
Yeah.
But it was something that years ago just didn't click. And
Right.
then one day it just wow. Wow. And that's all it takes. And then you, like you said, you called the rabbit hole, the wormhole, where you're going down that wormhole
Right.
looking for every Vega release. And speaking of Vega, that new the posthumous Vega Vault stuff
Yep.
is
Yep.
coming out. And I know you pre-ordered, I pre-ordered. How
I've
many
got 3 different copies coming.
you
Everything
ordered?
but their join my $175 membership and you get a chance at the other record. I got all three variants because at this point, I'm trying to be a completist on Rev, Vega, Suicide, Vinyl. And I'm within 3 or 4 pieces of being complete in vinyl.
Vinyl includes the flexies too, right?
Yeah. And then I'm filling in holes in CDs.
Yeah.
So at least that's an attainable goal, because there wasn't that much material.
Right. I mean,
I've got 85 releases of CD, cassette, and album of the Vega, Rev, and Suicide.
Now you're not talking. I mean, in some cases, multiple variants of the same album.
Yes, I've got like 4 different versions of their first record, and I think I've got a couple versions, different colored wax of like the last Vega album. I've got both variations of that, but most of it's one of,
right,
except for the first record, because there are different mixings on it, and they sound totally different.
That's interesting. So different for the first album. You're saying, did they release different mixes? Okay.
Yeah. And then
like LAMF. I think every show I make reference to Heartbreak as an LAMF. But
I asked you about it a month ago. Which one should I get? Because you've got probably all of them. And
the answer is just get the definitive collection. It's 3 LPs and you decide. But all right. So what's like some of the most recent things that you've gotten?
I got this.
What's in the new arrivals bin?
1 minute. I've got this.
Now, while you're looking for that, I got to ask you about those. Now, you built any wood that I see in that room now. You built by hand, correct?
Yeah. I just filed it too. Yeah, I've been a cabinet maker, woodworker, furniture builder for 40 years, and I got tired of everybody else having my good work. And so when we moved into this current house, I took one of the bedrooms and turned it into my music room. And I've got shelves like this, basically wrapping both sides. The cabinet behind me, you can see the top 2 drawers are 7-inch singles. The bottom 5 are CDs, and there's CDs up above. And there's some cassettes in there. This is what I've got, which is really cool. Shelley Hirsch and David Weinstein. Shelley's done vocals for a lot of the people in the no wave scene, but it's not a no wave record. It's almost like a modern classical free jazz. It's very cool. Echoes of Diamanda Galaz. Some of it sounds like, if you remember the Bulgarian women's choir in the 80s, when the Steepdale Bulgars. Pronunciation terrible, but it's got some Middle Eastern stuff. It's really fascinating. I just got that in the mail yesterday, I think. I got the Christina. I got a couple of comps. I got a bunch of new wave stuff because it's always cheap.
Right.
So yeah, a little bit of everything on this last month or so.
Cool. Now, how do you organize? Because the shelving is beautiful, but how is it organized?
Alphabetically.
So
with exceptions.
A to Z.
A to Z, not by genre, but so James Chance is also James White. It's James Chance and the Contortions. It's the Contortions. That's all together. My Suicide stuff is with the Rev and Vega solo stuff.
So is it under S for Suicide, V for Vega, R for Rev?
They're all under S for Suicide. First, all the Suicide releases, then Martin solo, then Alan solo.
Okay.
And within the releases, they're all chronological.
All right.
So, but I put like Alice Cooper, the band, and Alice Cooper, the person, they're mixed right into each other. So it's kind of, if it belongs, it's like the Swans, I'll have Michael Vera's solo stuff and Jarbeau. That's all put together. Although she should warrant her own section now, I should move her where she belongs. So
what are you waiting for?
Yeah, the only thing I do by genre are my compilations, because I have, well, those shelves here, I've got 5 shelves of compilations,
Wow.
and everything from old punk rock stuff to new wave to no wave to label comps, like the Warner Brothers stuff or that Orc Records, Sire stuff. All the label sponsored comps are together, and then by genre.
Huh. All right. That's
I pretty much know where everything is.
ultimately it's whatever works for you, but I'm always fascinated with how people decide to organize their own collection. To me,
Right.
it's fascinating, whether it's by genre or and I've said this a million times, on the show. I've said it. I've got my New York punk stuff down there, like that kind of everything from Velvets to Patti Smith to Velvet's, Lou Reed, Suicide, Ramones. That Dictators are all in one area, and then everything in back of me here is everything else. But then soundtracks are in here, behind here, and country music is in here, and
Okay.
and that's how that works. I don't know, but I know everything for the most part. I know everything. But I did file. So I filed something a couple of weeks ago. I thought I put it with compilations, various, and it wasn't there. And I ended up spending about 10 minutes. Where the hell did I do with this? And it was that ZE comp that I put next to Suicide, because it was just next.
Right. Yeah. Well, see, the VE comp goes in the label compilations.
Yeah, but but then see, then I have to take my entire Ramones related section and move it away from Ramones and put it into various, and that, like, I can't, like, the OCD kills me and I can't do that. It's been like that for 30 years. It cannot move. So now, speaking of things
for me, there's too much stuff that defies a genre, that I couldn't put metal, punk, singer-songwriter, because some of it bridges. Kinky Friedman, I'm a big fan of, and do you put that with Singing Jewish Texas Cowboys? Or
it's his own section.
Or do you just leave them in alphabetical? So, it's just easier for me. And I just, whatever it is, I just need to be able to walk up and go, okay, I want to hear the Swans' first EP. So I know right where it is.
Pull it right.
I don't have tag dividers, because I pretty much can see all the spines, and the cabinets have got LED lighting on the underneath each shelf, so it washes the whole front. I can't turn it on because it strobes my camera.
We can turn it on now just so that everyone can see what a craftsman you are.
Yeah.
And then we'll shut it off.
Yeah.
So
they're all dimmable.
Oof, that's a thing of beauty right there.
Well, it's what I do, so I should have something, that's pretty nice.
This is like that. Do you bring clients into your record room to show them, or you it's strictly?
I don't, because my house, my shop is not at my house. I've got an office at the shop. I've got a ridiculously large shop for myself and 2 dogs. So all my clients meet there. I have pictures of everything, because I've done work. We've got a 130-year-old house, and so I've done work throughout the house. It's all in my portfolio.
Yeah.
But I kind of like the whole media storage thing, because it seems like whoever the collector is, there's the spouse, whether it's husband, wife, whoever, doesn't want to see all the records in the living room in an IKEA cabinet. And don't get me wrong, IKEA cabinets are fine, but if you want something a little nicer, then you come see me, and that's kind of the niche I feel that needs to be filled.
Right.
So it works.
So note, everybody, if you're in that St. Paul, Minnesota, or general area, we're going to have Dave's information in the discussion, or no, what do they call the description? In the description, just below, and you can get in touch with him and have your own cabinets built And I mean, I've seen, never in person, but I've seen pictures, because he sent me some pictures of his work, and it's, I mean, I marvel at this, because I can't draw a straight line with a level, and let alone cut. And the work that Dave is doing is like, to me, is absolutely mind blowing. So,
But
but
I can't swallow swords either.
so all right, I
You know,
guess
it's all but you.
it's
Yeah,
all right.
yeah. Give me 40 years and I'll teach you.
And well, I could teach you how to swallow swords probably in a weekend, but it's up to you on how quickly you master that. So anyway,
Yeah,
um, that's for another YouTube show. But
yeah.
so now, speaking of your workshop, you have got a massive collection that of one album that you keep in
Uh,
your shop, and we need to know about this.
well, here's what it is.
You mean you have some copies at home that haven't made it to the shop yet? Yeah.
Um, it started because I've been digging records for 40 years. And every time I saw that, every time I was shopping, you'd see that record. And about 8, 10 years ago, I just started buying them for $1 a piece. And now it's gotten to where local shops will keep them under the counter for me, because every collection that somebody brings in that was their dad's or uncle's has probably got a copy of it. And I've got about, I don't know, 140 of them up on a wall. That's, 30 feet wide, 6 feet high. I've got a big, like I say, I got a big shop and a lot of wall space, and it's cheap wallpaper.
And now what? But now let's take a look at that one that you have there, because I understand that there is a sort of maybe a $5 variant on that album where all the writing is green, I believe, or maybe there's
Well,
no, or is it no?
they highlighted the taste of honey after it became a hit, but it was green. I mean, I've got 30 copies of each pressing. None of them are really worth much.
Right.
I mean, I see shops getting $9 to $12 for it, which makes me kind of giggle.
I mean,
It's a
not,
great record
not
if
over
you
here.
like. Yeah, but it's just something. There's no disrespect meant. I like it's an iconic cover. They were everywhere, so I started buying them.
Right,
And
which makes sense.
sold them for me.
Now, I mean, you even sent me a copy,
Well, yeah,
so that makes 3 for me. And
but yeah,
I've turned down the non-yellow variant. I've seen it in the store for like $4, and I'm like, I can't compete, so I'm not going to bother.
well, no. I just, I don't know how many. I think there were about 7 million copies sold.
You got a
So
ways to
all
go.
in all, even having 150 of them, I still got a very small percentage.
Yeah.
I'm not like the White Album collector that collects only the Beatles' White albums.
Right.
It's just,
Now,
it amuses me.
right now, do you collect variations of that, like the Pat Cooper record or the Soul Asylum record?
One place I'm a purist.
Okay. All right.
It has to be that cover. I mean, and people said Peter Nero has one. I've got a Korean one up in the cabinet, but to go on the wall, it has to be.
Has to be
I've got family in the UP that sent me a box of like 15 of them. Yeah, it's kind of become its own thing, which is pretty fun.
Yeah, no, it is. I mean,
they'll go on the wall.
let's put it this way: you can't walk out of a record store and not find that, and probably not buy it for $1.
Right.
But that's an interesting one, because you said that out by you've seen them for upwards of $10. Now, for the most part, out here in the New York, New Jersey area, I mean, these are $1 everywhere, about 1 to 3 anywhere. But
right.
But there are certain albums that you really don't see frequently. I think we were talking about like Cheap Trick. Out where I am,
they use Cheap Trick.
They give away. I mean, Cheap Trick, you can walk into pretty much any store in the area and have your pick of $5 Cheap Trick records.
No, not here.
Yeah.
No. And it's funny because you found me the Nails records.
Right.
And I've been looking for a year, and I hit probably 4 or 5 stores on a regular basis, weekly, and I've never seen them. and you found them in both of them in a weekend.
Both of them
You know,
at the same set.
so
Brooklyn.
it's reachable on what to pay them.
Yeah, it was at Brooklyn Record Exchange. It's a nice shop out in where is that? Like a Bushwick area, I guess. Bushwick, yeah, right around there. And yeah, they had both of them, what, $3, $4 or something?
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
It's funny how things like that show up. Like you don't see Cheap Trick here. You don't see, well, I don't think anywhere you see a lot of Tom Waits used because people
That's
keep a hold of that stuff.
yeah. Now, what? All right,
And
here's an interesting. What about Billy Joel? I mean, Billy Joel. You know, obviously in New York, Billy Joel is, you know, pre-COVID was holds the world record of playing shows at Madison Square Garden. He's got a monthly show that he does there, and you know, here in New York, Jersey, you can find your share of Billy Joel for, you know,
yeah,
really cheap.
they're everywhere.
Okay, all right. I
Yeah.
figured maybe he hasn't sort of shifted.
Oh no, no, it's like a Billy Joel play. He's everywhere.
Okay. I mean, I like Billy Joel. I met him once. Nice guy. Really
Yeah.
nice guy.
Well,
But
that's the thing. I mean, people get all upset. You know, well, you listen. What do you listen to? You know, everything. And I don't believe in guilty pleasures. I mean, I don't have any shame on what I enjoy. I mean, we were talking about new wave earlier. One of my favorite new wave records is ABC, The Look of Love. Okay, it's Blue Eyed Soul, which I generally hate,
right
but I just love that record, that band,
now,
and I'm
what it,
proud of it.
I mean, we've talked new wave quite a bit, but we've never discussed Depeche Mode, New Order. Is that sort of too commercial? I mean, if you listen to that, you're listening to, you know, more commercial stuff. But does that fall within your listening or?
Not much because it went pretty mainstream and lost. I kind of like as far as new wave goes, I like kind of the mechanical, quirky, you know, even like early Missing Persons,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. Lena Lovitch. We've talked about our shared appreciation of classics nouveau.
Yeah.
Well, it gets no love in the States, and for me, that's what new wave should sound like.
Right. Right.
That's kind of where I go with that. But there again, I bought some Transistor records, Deaf or Slow Children. I just got that. And it's pretty basic new wave towards kind of the pub rock stuff, but it was $4 a record. So,
right.
You know, you're not out anything.
That's I have some, if I can find it, it might be, I think, yep, here it is. This is sort of like French post-punk Charles de Gaulle. And I mean, a real kind of wacky cover there. I think you would probably dig this. And it's the album is Algorithm. I mean, I'm saying it algorithms. It might be like algorithm, but you know, with a
right.
accent, it's algorithms. But yeah, you would dig it because it's sort of, you know, post-punky, cold, harsh new wave.
Yeah.
You know, like, and that just how you like it.
Yeah, there's a guy that his name is Bill Bruce, and he was doing video production for Husker Du, has done some producing, and he put out a 12-inch called Changing. And I think he's from Fargo, North Dakota. And it's a fantastic minimal synth electronic from the early 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw him one time on public access TV here and ended up finding his record. Now that's a $400 record.
Wow.
But to me, it's if I didn't have it, I'd probably want it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Just that. But yeah, in fact, I just picked up another copy because I found it relatively cheap, and I will actually flip that one.
All right. I mean, you don't do a whole lot of selling. I mean, you know, you're probably the first well, no, because we had Jeremy on the show who has a blog, and he doesn't sell. But you're one of the first who really doesn't sell records. I mean, you have them, you hold on to them, and every so often you flip one. But
well, I've got some stuff that I should sell. I've got a hardcore single, the first appearance of Duff McKagan from Guns N' Roses, called Silly Killers. And it's terrible. I mean, I'm sure I paid $3 for it back in the day. I listened to it once, put it away. And then I was finally getting everything in Discogs. I found it, and it's a $300 single.
That hardcore stuff is through the roof now.
And it's nothing I'll ever listen to again, because I've got a really, I was a hardcore kid growing up. So I really have a deep respect for all this stuff, but it wasn't good hardcore. So I really should get out of there and get rid of that. I mean, I've got some other stuff in some boxes I picked up in bulk lots that I should sell, but it's on my shelves now. And every once in a while I pull something of that out and try it again. Going back to the theory of there's a time for everything.
Well, I'll tell viewers, if you're interested in that Duff McKagan thing, leave a comment. We'll put you in touch, and Dave, you'll unload that, and we'll make someone happy.
Yeah. Well, the big thing is I don't want to sell online because I'm very particular about records. And I'd rather put it in somebody's hands and go look at it.
Yeah, well, that makes sense.
Because at that level, at a $300 record, I don't want somebody unhappy. I don't want to deal with it.
Right.
That's bullshit. I don't want to deal with it.
That makes a world of sense.
Yeah. And if I went on the Discogs, I mean, I've been buying there for years, but I've never sold. So I'd be a new seller.
Yeah.
And the stigma attached to that, it isn't worth it for me.
Right. Now, you recently had a bit of a horror story with the Neubauten set that you had.
Right.
What was the story with that?
Well, it was the new Neubauten album box set. And I've kind of gotten a strange compulsion to buy box sets recently, and even some for bands I'm not really a fan of, but I don't understand it.
Because they're so nice.
Yeah, and I really like, this is my favorite album they've done the last 15 years. I think it's fantastic. And I had bought the download when it first came out and loved it. And I was going to buy the record, and I saw this, and I went, well, I'm going to do it. And it was $140 shipped. And it's got the original album, a 12-inch of outtakes, 2 CDs, a DVD, and a book. So pretty nice. So I ordered it Halloween from Germany. And I got it 2 weeks ago. And during that time, I filed a PayPal claim. And because I was just like, okay, it isn't showing up. Finally got the PayPal claim through. I got up in the morning, PayPal said, your money's been refunded. That afternoon, the box set shows up after having no tracking on it for
in three and a half months.
Yeah.
3.5 months from Germany to St. Paul.
Germany. And really kind of minimal contact from the seller. He's like, well, I'm not the shipper, so I don't know. And I got it, and I went, wow. And that night, I got an email from the seller immediately threatening me with an international attorney. And it's like, you know what? I was going to pay him anyway, because, everybody's got to eat. But he came off as such a...
You can say it.
Yeah, he's a dick, And, rather than saying, see, you got the record, PayPal took my money, I would have said, absolutely. And so I refunded him the exact amount I was given.
PayPal
and he complained because it was a euro and a half short of the exchange rate. And again, sir, I said, that's all you're getting. Fine. And so, if that's the worst thing that's happened to me, I'm okay.
Right. But now every time
I've gotten stuff like you said, pardon?
Every time you listen to that, it just
you're saying
a bad feeling.
Yeah. Well, you were talking about getting a record with a cover stuck in.
Oh, I
yeah. The packaging.
Yeah.
I'm a big J.G. Thirlwell fan, Fetus, in all of his iterations. I mean, one section is his. And I got a signed copy of one of his records. And it came with the packaging stuck to the back cover. Luckily, the surface, in fact, it's up on my wall above me of my signed records. It's fine, but the whole back of it was torn off. And I open it up, and you get that feeling of like, okay, it's not just a record at that point. At that point, it's an artifact.
Right. Well, once it's signed, yeah.
Yeah. And I kind of do that. I collect ephemera as well. I mean, I've got a signed James Chance poster that I really like, some Guillermo Galaz stuff, and like that Ratzel Sloman record, that's up on my wall.
Yeah.
I did meet the kind of a grail for me was a local record shop that got a hold of this insane collection. In fact, you got some of that collection too, of punk, new wave. I think the guy bought everything from 1978 to 81 that was released.
That was mind blowing. I mean, that was what was that
Everything.
Mill City?
Mill City and Hopkins. Yeah,
Mill
they're
City
great
Records.
shop.
And they were posting, flip videos of this and you said that there's still stuff that they haven't priced yet.
Yeah, I don't know where they are in it. I haven't talked to them a while. It's been probably 3 months, but they did a flip video of, and they had a copy of the Dead Boys, Young, Loud, and Snotty.
Oh, you got to
signed by all 5 members. And I'm like, okay, it's a half an hour drive. So I got up next morning. I got there half an hour before the store opened. There was already somebody in line. By the time they opened the store, there were like 30 people in line. And I saw they have the wall of the expensive records. And I knew right where this record was. And I asked the guy in front of me, what are you here for? And I'd seen him at other record shows. He's like, well, I'm here for this and this. I said, okay, good. And so I basically raced in and grabbed that record off of the wall. And honestly, Adam, it looks like it was brand new. I think this guy bought everything, played it once, taped it, and put it away. Because every 7-inch, and I spent probably $500 on this collection over the past 3 months of singles. I mean, Lydia Lunch singles, which are ridiculously hard to find.
And that 500 is just what you spent. Then it was another few dollars for me.
Oh yeah, yeah. I can't imagine how much this collection was worth. I mean, he had the first 2 Germ singles, and they sold within the first 20 minutes of opening at $600 a piece.
Wow.
Signed Ramon stuff, and signed Dictator's record. I mean, everything was in pristine shape. So that was an expensive thing, but it's stuff. And it's stuff I never am going to see again. I'm never going to see another Dead Boys record signed by all 5 members.
In condition like that, no. And I mean, I really think you got a killer deal on that.
Oh yeah, I think I paid $1.50 for it.
I mean,
but then I did pass up recently a first press of the first Suicide record. So I've got 4 different LP versions and a couple of CD versions, but it wasn't in great shape. The price was good, but if I'm going to buy a Grail, it better be perfect. And honestly, it's not going to do anything other than sit on my shelf because I'll never listen to it.
Right.
And it's nothing special because there's, thousands printed. So that's kind of where I draw the line on that.
That's the wants and the needs,
Yeah.
And it's good that you're, it's good that you're focused. Now here's something that I want to talk about, and that is opening old sealed records. Because we're in different schools here. If I found something like I found a $5 Ronnie Spector record that I just can't open, and I had to buy another one just to listen to it. Because I think I spent $7. I bought $5 for the sealed one, $7 for the open one, but I'm not going to open it. It can't breathe new air. That's my theory. And you have no problem just ripping open a new record. I mean, I found an old record that's new to you.
Yeah. I found a copy of the first Ultravox record, sealed. Man, I cracked that open. I could not wait to play it.
Stop.
And I know it gives you anxiety, and that's why I've got that Sylvain first solo record sealed. It's a Canadian press. I'm going to send it to you, and all you have to do to have it is find me a player copy.
I'm working on that.
Yeah.
Once what it is, you see that album all over, but when you want it, you don't see it.
Yeah. If you look too hard, it's not going to show.
That's what it is. But yes, Sylvain.
I don't have any trouble opening something to play. I bought records that I've still got that are still sealed that I bought in reserve of copies. Because, honestly, in my 20s, I probably didn't take the best care of my stuff.
Right.
So if I can find records on that, and a lot of it's the new wave stuff that was, it didn't sell when it was new, and it sure isn't selling now. So you can find stuff like that. And so I've got a number of copies in reserve when my other one gets just too bad to play anymore.
Right. But it's funny how certain bands, there's the prices just keep going up. And so even the more obscure bands, Classics Nouveau, that's a perfect example. Great band, but they have 3 albums, and
Yeah.
you know, these are $2, $3, $5 records at best. You
Yeah.
know, but they're fairly obscure, but it's really, really good. Lena Lovitch, another one. You know, I mean, the first
Yeah.
record may go for what, 10, 15. Everything thereafter is a $2 record. But
I did pay $25 for a Japanese import because it still had the OB strip. And that's kind of just pure collector goofball stuff. But
yeah,
I do love that record. So it was just a have.
right, right. All right, and that makes sense. You know, I mean, because sometimes we just buy things just to have. You know, we're just not going to open them, or well, you would, but just rip that shit.
I do.
When,
I
when
can open one now and show you.
when you open a record, let's say it's a brand new release. All right, I mean, we're talking something that was, you know, came out yesterday. When you open it, do you take the shrink wrap off? Do you open the gatefold, or you just slice it, take the record out, put the record on, and that's it?
I take it out. I cut the shrink wrap off. I throw it away. If there's a hype sticker, I might take it and slip it inside the record. Everything goes on. I bought a project cleaner, the wet vac. Everything gets cleaned, then goes into a plastic sleeve. The sleeve gets a blue dot on it if it's been cleaned, and then it goes into my shelves. Because I've got, I don't know, 2,500 records. And when I bought my cleaner, I thought there's no way I'm going to sit down and start cleaning, even though it takes 90 seconds to 2 minutes to clean a record. So I clean them before I play.
Okay, that makes sense.
And so that way I can reach in, grab something and go, okay, this has to be cleaned. And I'll clean it and play it. Put a sticker on the sleeve, goes in the shelf.
Right. Yeah,
I don't observe the.
I have that, you know, the manual spin clean. I got to tell you, I mean, for what it is, it's terrific. I mean, it's cleaned up some pretty ratty, crackly, you know, records. Who is it?
Right. I just figured with the amount I've got invested in this, another $500 for a cleaner makes a lot of sense.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, and are you going to get a warping? What do they call it? The warp fix machine too, or?
No, I don't think so. I mean, in fact, that record store, Mill City, just bought one.
So you can bring it there, and they'll
press that they're going to work. They're going to play with it, and then they're going to basically come in, bring in a record. It'll be however much to straight flatten out a warp.
That's not bad. I mean, I've got a Public Image Limited second edition, where I think the first record in the set. It is not metal box. This is, you know, the one in the sleeve.
Right.
And I mean, this thing is like, it looks like the beach. There's so many waves. And
really?
I tried putting 245, you know, 45-pound weight on the bottom, put it in a plastic, 45-pound weight on the top, let it sit for a month and a half, did absolutely nothing, zero. And I mean, it is what it is. That's, you know, what, a $20.
Have you tried the heated glass plate in the oven?
I don't trust myself. I know that I'll take that glass plate out. I'll, you know, oven mitts, and the thing will get too hot. I'll
drop it.
Hot glass all over. I got cats running around. I don't need the headache. I won't listen to it. That's all.
Right.
You know, that, I mean, what am I going to do?
Yeah, I don't have a lot of stuff that's worked.
Yeah,
and I always sort my records upright.
Right.
You know, and I look at stuff most of, you know, when I buy it locally, I'm always, you know, first thing you do is hold it up and check to see if it's flat. So I just don't I've been lucky.
I check, you know, for scratches, for, you know, dirt and hairline and whatnot, but I forget to check for warps. And just today, I picked up what I thought was an upgrade for ELP brain salad surgery, which I put on and had a horrible warp at the, you know, for the first track. So I pick up what record looks, you know, looks clean, looks nice, put it on, same exact thing. If you're out there and you know of a defect in brain salad surgery, just leave a comment, because I'm curious to know if this is just a defect or if 2 of 2 are just completely warped. So I don't know. But
what if they send you a sealed one?
If they what? A sealed? I wouldn't open it. No. I mean, again, it's a $3 record, but that cover, it unfolds from the middle with the ends. It's a nice piece, but I would.
That's it. Why wouldn't you open a gatefold on a new record?
Because I don't. That's
so you keep all of your stuff in shrink after you open it?
Yeah. So the way I store the records is I'll take, now I had to open up the newest replacements, the Record Store Day concert. I forgot the name of it. It was the live concert. Not live at Maxwell's. You picked that one up for me. That was just a gatefold, which I just opened in, just slid it and pulled it out. This was, all right, excuse my back for a second. Not that one. Where is it? It's here somewhere. I don't know why it's not. Here it is. This one here. Oh yeah. Incarcerated. This one. Oh, and it's a triple LP. All right. And it you can't get the records out if you don't open the shrink. So what do? I take out I slice the shrink and I take the records out. I slide it out of the shrink wrap, make sure that the shrink, and I slide it right back in. So it still has the shrink, and I store the records, in back of it over here, which is so how I store
records outside the jackets.
What was that?
You store your records outside the jackets.
Yeah. So every record, the album is outside of the actual sleeve.
Right.
So it's stored. I mean,
I should. I don't, but I should. That's my thing. It's like, I probably should start doing that just because of wear and tear. I mean, it's kind of I like the ritual of, spinning over, reaching out, grabbing a record, Pat Travers, pulling it out,
smoking whiskey, drinking cocaine.
Yeah. I mean, I saw him open for, I think, maybe Rush years back, or maybe Nugent back in the day.
I wouldn't expect you to have a Pat Travers record, but
I've got stuff that you wouldn't expect.
You have any Molly Hatchet?
No, I hate Southern rock.
Did I? Tim? I mean, come on. Did I ever tell you the story about Molly Hatchet when I was a kid? I don't know if I mentioned this on the show yet. But I was a kid at and I went to Walgreens, and I was into metal as a kid. I probably 11, 12, whatever it was. And they have this Molly Hatchet tape, and you look at the cover, and it's like this warrior on a horse, muscle, and I'm like, oh my god, this got to be like the heaviest metal. I mean, holy cow! And I run home from Walgreens, open up this is when I didn't care about shrink wrap, and I opened up the tape, put it in the cassette player, and it's like country. And I was so sad.
That was a Frank Frazetta picture on their first record, wasn't it?
Oh yeah. I mean, but to this day, I mean, this is years and years later, and I'm still reeling about Molly Hatchet and how they should have been heavier based on their album covers.
Right. I bought my covers for years. Because, there wasn't, I mean, I grew up outside of Minneapolis in a small town that had records in their drugstore. There was a record store when I was a kid. It's lasted for 2 or 3 years. That's what got me started. But then, I'd have to go down to the drugstore and see what they got in. And I remember I bought a Spiral Gyro record. And you looked at the cover, and it was like this spacey, and I'm like, wow, this is going to be cool. And I get home, and it's like noodling jazz, and I couldn't have been more crushed by that one record. And that was 40 years ago, and it's still like, God, that one really got me.
Yeah, that's like the Molly Hatchet record. But look at that first. We love look at that first Suicide record. If that cover tells you what you're going to hear.
Right.
Right. I mean, you look at that, and it's like, yeah, this will be blood curdling.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you watch a cowboy movie, you expect to see cowboys, and that's what you get with a lot of it. But every once in a while, I kind of miss the days of blind buying.
I mean, you don't blind buy it all anymore? Not even like a $5 record?
No.
Really?
I'm sorry.
Oh, you don't blind buy anything anymore?
I really don't, um, because I've got a pretty good working knowledge of the music I'm interested in.
All right.
And if I don't, I can always find clues: producer, musicians, time and place. So it's not like it used to be where you're just like, I don't know, let's try it.
Yeah.
So it's informed. I'll buy a lot of stuff without hearing it,
Mm-hmm.
but that's not really truly just taking a dive and jumping in.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, it's like that record back up there. Come on, it's actually a no wave adjacent record, and more towards kind of the conch or ESG kind of dancey stuff, liquid. Um, but that one kind of caught me. I looked at it, I saw who was on it, when it was recorded, and that was about as a blind buy as I did, because I knew kind of what it was. I didn't know what it sounded like, and I was
Yeah.
pleasantly surprised with that one.
And I mean, is that something that you put on or you listen to it
Yeah,
once?
yeah.
Yeah, this is good. And,
I've had it a year. It's been probably 3 or 4 trips on the turntable.
all right, that's
Yeah.
fair. I mean, I sort of have a system when I listen to stuff, and I've been doing a lot of listening now. I got nothing else to do. You know, I'm not
Yeah.
performing, and you know that affords me the time to sit and just listen to stuff. So I have like the new arrivals section here, and then you know everything else is where it is. And I try to pick you know something new, something recent, and for every recent album, something old. And I'll just go through, and you know sometimes I'll just you know really just go through from A. You know, I skip the Adam Ant and the Anthrax usually, but I'll grab some, you know, just grab something random and put it on. You know, because I guess you find you're listening to the same bands. I mean, you know, hell,
Right.
I've got how many copies, and I say this repeatedly, how many copies of LAMF do I need? But that's a
Right.
record that I can put on every day in the last 30 years and not get bored.
Yeah. Well, see, I do the same thing here. I'll spin around to grab one bin, and I'll reach in, I'll do a blind grab.
Yeah. Yeah.
But since it's alphabetical, and then I have an idea. But I mean, I listen to a lot of music at work, and granted, it's over machinery, so it's an iPod. And because records and dirt and dust don't mix well.
No.
But what I find, what I like about the shuffle on that is constant variety. But then every once in a while, something will come up, and I'm like, oh yeah, I have to listen to that. I got
Yeah.
an Alice Cooper kick last week. I listened to 3 mid-'80s Alice Cooper records in a row, and it was perfect. It was just what I wanted. It happened because one thing came up. And I think
That's
what
it.
we're doing is kind of the same thing. One old, one new, something different. You
Yeah.
know, because I think we all want to expand our listening.
Exactly. Exactly. And like I said, when you know when I'm driving in the car, it's the phone. You know, I've got the phone Bluetooth into the car, and it's on shuffle. I can't listen to an album because I won't touch the phone when I'm driving.
Right.
You know, I got a ticket once, and this is crazy, especially in New York. I mean, they'll take away my license if I do it again. So it's the phone is just on a cradle. It sits there, and that's it. So it's on shuffle. It's never going to stop. But then, yeah, you'll listen. You'll have that one song. Yeah, when I get home later, I gotta listen to that. And from time to time, I'll actually write it on a post-it so that I don't forget by the time I get home. You
Right.
know, obviously when I'm out of the car, I'm not, you know, writing when driving. Don't do that. But yeah, that's the way it works. Wow, we've gone through a lot.
Oh,
I mean, I suppose we could start wrapping up. I mean, this has been a terrific conversation.
yeah. So,
You know that we can go on for probably another 2 or 3 hours.
oh, yeah. And we
Yeah,
will. Just not on camera.
and you know, right? We'll end the actual program, and then we're just going to keep going. But anything else that you want to share? Anything you want to show us? Or
I think it's funny that you talk about, you know, we hit on this a couple of weeks ago. We kind of got together over kvetching Jews.
yeah, that is true. Ratso,
Suicide, Ratso, the
yeah,
Ramones. I mean, and having totally different. This is what I like about the record collecting community, and especially even online, because I've met a lot of nice people that have become friends
right.
because of shared interests. And we have about as different upbringings as you can be.
Oh yeah,
You grew up
yeah,
in the rural Midwest, you grew up in New York City.
a McFetchy Jew, so
Yeah, and I'm just a hairy leg country boy. But we have this connection, and it goes from there. Yeah, one thing I got, holy grails. Gosh, I don't really have any that I'm really searching for. But one thing I really do like is I'm a big fan of Oxbow, and there again, the singer Eugene is actually a pretty good friend of mine. But this is pretty cool. This is their second record, King of the Jews, which is signed. Yeah, it's Sammy, um, and I got it in shrink, and it's from the early 80s, so it's hard to find. And I had them sign it when they were all in my dining room one morning after we had an Oxbow sleepover when they toured their last tour. So we had, four members of Oxbow on three floors. We had one guy sleeping out on the screen porch in a blow-up bed. And, to me, that's the fun about music, is being able to do this kind of stuff.
yeah, yeah,
And the people you meet, and because where my like you said, my listening habits are narrow but broad. They're in this range, but they're all over the place. And to
right.
find somebody that has even a connection in that it's hard.
It's hard, but when you find that connection, it's like you've opened up this secret portal,
Right,
and
right.
oh yeah, we can talk about that. I mean, you've turned me on to a whole bunch. Even like the James Chance. This is really really recent to me.
Yeah.
The no wave stuff. I knew about it. I saw James Chance once. I believe it. I think it was either CBGB's, a Continental, back in the night. It must have been like some sort of a series of bands, and I don't even remember. But I remember seeing James Chance.
Yeah.
And again, this is years and years ago. What is this? This doesn't make sense. But years later, you look at it, it's like, yeah, I can sit down and I can appreciate the dissonance in this.
Right. And the opening track on No New York, is there an opening track on anything else that slaps the hell out of you like that song
Yeah,
does?
dish it out.
Yeah, I mean, to me, that sets the tone for that record perfectly.
The first side is very accessible. The second side's a little. I find that I'll usually shut it. Just stop playing it after the first side.
Yeah.
Just because it's that second.
Baby steps, Adam. Pretty soon you'll be just playing nothing but Mars.
Yeah, well, eventually. All right, Dave, I'll tell you what. I think we're gonna call it quits. I think we've been on for over an hour. Every episode I've noticed gets about 10 minutes longer. And that's maybe it's because I'm more comfortable being the host, or maybe it's just because I just thoroughly enjoy all these conversations. And I know, like I said, I know we can go on for hours and hours and hours beyond this call. And it's been amazing talking to you. Again, we talk, once, twice a week, but it's been terrific to, seeing you on Zoom. And
Yeah.
I hope that everybody out there in YouTube land has enjoyed this little chat with Dave Ennis and myself. If you have, make sure you hit like, make sure you subscribe to the channel and leave a comment so that the algorithms pick it up and more people can see this. And I guess that's all I got to say right now. So, friends, thank you very much. We are going to wrap up episode 5 of Your Personal Record with my friend Dave Ennis. Dave, thanks again. And all right, I guess we'll stop recording now.
It's been a pleasure. Peace.